we're going to do is just not say anything for about 10 seconds, maybe 5. Cool, because then what I do is I take that little bit and I take any impurity then in the ambience, and I just take it out all the rest.
Oh, okay.
Because sometimes there's a buzzing cord, some shit like that. Do you want to use headphones?
I don't care.
I mean, you can use these.
What do they do?
Yeah. But yeah, you can like use this and you get one ear.
Yeah, it's pretty weird. Not like common gear.
Yeah, fuck it. Like I said, it's a lot like comms gear. So, shit. Battle of fucking Los Angeles traffic. It's a motherfucker out there. It's raining and shit like that. So, let's fucking get this rolling. Friends, fans, followers, leaders, and true believers, I am here with
Marty Yingling.
Marty Yingling, former Master Chief Petty Officer, United States Navy, former boss of mine, like on several different occasions and a couple different commands in a regiment. I think I've served with you more than I did anybody, off and on for 20 years.
Pretty much. I mean, yeah, we all had our times at Fort Winnie, so.
Some more than others.
Yeah.
Like almost all of it.
Yeah, like look under Homesteader, it's me.
Fuck yeah, man. So like, what year did you go in?
I went in 1980.
80. And then when did you retire?
2010.
All right, great podcast. We're done. No, all right, so 2010. Man, that's a lot of fucking time. That's pretty cool. Like
30 years, 7 months, 5 days. Who's counting?
Yeah, what? You know? And it was all Seabees, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, Seabees.
So you went into Hoorah 40. That was your first battalion, right?
First battalion was 40. My first tour duty was in Annapolis, Maryland, a small CBU.
Yeah.
And then came out to 40. And after 40, I went to CBC, base security. And then from there to the Antarctic unit.
Yeah. Oh, that deep freeze thing? What was that like?
Oh, that was cool.
Because nobody ever talks about that. Because it's like nobody really realizes that was a thing. What was day-to-day life in Antarctica?
Well, I was down there summer support, so it was 24 hours of daylight.
It's still cold as fuck, am I right?
Yeah.
Summer support make it sound like it's fucking Miami, man.
Yeah, and then we had our winter rover crew that would come in, and they would go down with us each summer.
Right.
And then come out when we went back down again in summer. So we were always deployed during holidays because their summer is our winter. But to go down there, you work all day and outside. Obviously, your breaks are a lot longer, and your working outside is a lot shorter.
Right.
But it's just
It's like the opposite of black flag is like black icicle conditions.
Yeah, I was down there with Chet Tussey, a couple other folks that are retired now, but I went to a couple different outlying camps, different places where Seabees do the refueling.
Like you say, outlying camps. How much shit goes down in Antarctica?
Well, you got a whole bunch of beakers. Beakers are what we call the scientists down there.
Oh, okay. Makes sense. Beakers from the Muppets.
So you go to there was a helicopter stop that was called Marble Point. McMurdo is just on an island, and the island sits off the coast of the actual continent of Antarctica. So you would go by helicopter out to Marble Point and refuel, and then they could spend more time in the dry valleys. Now, what I mean with dry valleys, there's absolutely no snow up there.
Gotcha.
So it's really an abnormal place, but the whole Antarctic itself is a weird place. And then they would fly back, refuel, and obviously go back to camp.
Right.
That's one small outlying camp. The other one was Bird Station. That one was out in the middle of the ice shelves, way the hell out there. And they would fly out with C-130s, refuel, and then fly to the South Pole or wherever else they were going to do whatever studying they were doing. These refuel spots allowed the helicopters and the C-130s to carry less fuel and more cargo. So they could actually fly out, and because you can't go anywhere unless there's a stop with fuel,
right?
Unless you have turnaround fuel from that point. I mean, all the way there and all the way back. So that cuts down on the cargo. So now they can fly to Marble Point with the helicopters and refuel, fly out, and fly back.
So basically, you're just out there spending a lot of time building facilities for scientists, and after the facilities are done, you still have to keep maintenance.
Right.
And you have flight lines that have to stay fucking clear and all that other stuff.
Yeah, Marble Point was solely generated power. So was Bird Station, all generators. And
oh shit.
You would if power goes out, you're screwed.
Oh yeah.
But
was use involved with that, or was that just?
Nah, we're talking 50 kW generators,
Oh,
nothing
okay,
as big
that's-
as Muse. So you would power up the camp, run the generator for a while, and then you had a spare, and then you fired up the spare because you did the maintenance on it, and run it for a while until the other one cooled off a little bit, drained the oil, put the new oil filter on, put the new all the stuff, new oil in, make sure it was all good to go, and if run it the spare to its time for oil change, and then switch it back and forth. The hardest part was going out in the beginning of each season and opening these camps up.
Really? Why was that?
Because you had DFA, diesel fuel Antarctic. They used to put glycol in the diesel fuel,
Okay.
so it didn't gel up and freeze. So you'd have to heat the whole engine. You take a Herman Nelson that just blows nothing but hot, really hot air.
Looks like a jet engine type thing. Yeah.
And it's got a hose on it. You see them on football fields in Green Bay.
Those like the salamander looking things.
Yeah. So they would blow hot air on this, and then they take fresh batteries out and try to crank these things over. Of course, you had to dick these things to ether to fire up, and once they fired up and stayed running for 20, 30 minutes, then you could actually leave. The helicopters could leave the station.
Gotcha.
And then you would fire the other one up to make sure it was running, and you would be good. And then the generator provided its own heat. It was inside a built shack, so a nice insulated shack. So it would provide its own heat in there. The stack would go out over the roof, but the heat of the engine would keep the room cool, warm. So it was really cool. You either fed the seagulls or had the Delhi penguins, the little ones, follow you to work.
That's very cool, man. Then you had your own pets, name them and shit.
No, I didn't name them any, but
It's like the stray cats of the fucking Antarctica. How big is?
You remember Jamie Anderson?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
UTC. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He was down in there. He was down there.
5 with him.
Yeah, so was I.
Yeah, that's right. Well,
The 31st Regiment did him in.
Yeah, well, I was there too because we went back to back. That was the first 2 commands I was at, and it was like, 5 and then the 31st. Yes.
Yeah, I was down in the Antarctic with him. He was the winter over, so he stayed down there a whole year.
I thought it was cool too because I remember seeing the ribbons, and they have an actual special winter over fucking ribbon for.
Well, there's a medal that's for the Antarctic service, and then they have a winter over banner that goes across it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's quite an ordeal. I mean, Seabees don't go down there anymore, so it's all contractors now. So.
Right. Well, that's what's weird, man. Seabee's got taken out of a lot of things, and it's.
Well, you no sooner get it fixed and nice and ready for everybody else to live in, and then the contractors want it.
Yeah. No, fuck it.
I guess some bean counter figured out a long time ago that it was cheaper to have contractors do our jobs of maintenance than it was for Seabees to do it, but I don't understand how they can figure that out.
I don't either. I think a lot of times too, and I think it's very unfortunate because the readiness is gone in a lot of cases because when we used to have continuous deployments or we were actually doing a lot more, you had those skill sets up, like laying block or fucking doing drywall, whatever it is. Now you're going from there and you're spending maybe a year or two behind a fucking 240 Bravo. You're in a gun truck.
Well, not anymore.
And then
it's all reserves doing any kind of Iraq or Afghanistan.
Yeah.
All active duties are going to Okinawa, Spain, Djibouti type project deployment. So.
Well, the thing what hurt us a lot in the past though is because you'd have a guy who's he's a non-rate welder, and then he makes second class, but he was in charge of a gun truck, and then so it's good that they're doing it that way now, definitely.
Well, there's one thing about being in Iraq, we've been used a lot of rod when we first started up armoring our own vehicles.
Yeah. Trust me, when I was in 40, that was almost all my job was. Is I had that steel shop in Fallujah on Camp Knott. Rest in peace, Knott. But I had that steel shop there, and the cool thing is some of the Marines knew me from just shit talking and hanging out and stuff like that, and I would utilize other people's resources so I could get some 6011 or some welding rods, and then I'd be like, look, if you guys got any issues that need fixed now, right now, bring it by. So every once in a while I'd have a different Marine Humvee coming in and out. Sometimes it'd be, some serious shit they needed fixed, because they hit an IED and it's like another camp on their base, huge waiting list. And instead of doing that, instead of waiting, they'd come hang out with us. And other ones were just cool dudes. And they came in and they're like, hey man, can you get and would weld ammo can, an ammo can holder rack, just so they could have a place to rest their cigarettes or their chew or their just creature comforts. Because those little creature comforts in the gun turret go a very long fucking way.
Yeah. Well, we had open gun turrets when we were there.
Yeah.
So both times, and And we didn't have those Gucci gun turrets they have now.
No, that's
Yeah, if you got shot at, you got shot.
Because that was like we were there through the transition from those like weird fucking ones, and it looked like a weird garbage can with a slit in the center of it. It looked like Oscar. I call them Oscar's houses, you know, because it looks like Oscar Grouch lived in there. And then it went to the nice Gucci ones with the windows, and it's just like everything but a windshield wiper on them.
Yeah,
like, this is fucking nice. It's like a mini house on top of a vehicle now.
Yeah. So just to clarify something. I'll never call another Seabee shipmate, so you'll never hear that bullshit out of me. And I'll never call you a sailor. You'll never hear that shit out of me either. So, and don't call me that either. We'll just clarify that from the start.
All right, cool, man.
Seabees are Seabees, sailors are saillers, and I ain't nobody's fucking shipmate.
There you go.
I was never on a ship, so I couldn't call that.
Yeah, that's a yep. Yeah, that's
you
funny.
know who I'm saying that to.
Oh yeah,
right?
we're talking about Dougie Heiner. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I love the guy too.
A good old selfie shipmate.
Yeah, Dougie Heiner. Good people, man. He was on here. Him and his wife are on here, so that's cool.
Yeah, I know.
Hella good people.
I told Doug, I said, you're gonna pull your shoulder out of whack taking so many selfies.
Hey, you know what though? Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Just let people know you're alive and well, and they are too. So fucking all right, Antarctica.
Then I went to NCTC, instructor duty.
Okay.
Made chief there in '95, and then went on to.
How long did it take you to make chief?
15 years.
Oh shit! So you skipped over a lot of stuff. Okay. So
no, I was behind the power curve.
Yeah.
But I made chief at the right time. I would have probably been giving it back had I made it any sooner.
Or later.
Yeah.
The way the Navy is now.
From NCTC, I went to NMCB 5.
Yeah, professionals.
And then from NMCB 5, I went to the 31st. Yeah. Worked at our 73 first, and then went up to Ops second. And then went to 4.
Yeah, man.
And then, did the invasion and did the follow-on deployment and ended up getting a little scuffle there and medevaced out and a little scuffle with a large mortar. So
like what all happened, man? I know we've done this show before, but it was before I actually had my format and all this other stuff. If you care to talk about it, I'd appreciate it, and if not, I totally understand.
We were out one day, Darren Williams, myself, Eric Knott, and Justin Sasser. What was happening was the convoy security teams were coming in and having to unload all their comm gear and everything and put it all in a secure place. And then get up 2.5 hours before a convoy,
right?
And which takes their sleep away, and load all that back in, and the weapons and all that stuff. So what I was doing, was building a secure area for the Humvees for the convoy security teams. And they would be able to leave their weapons and their comm gear in the vehicles.
Oh, okay, cool.
So they could get up a little later, come in, turn everything on, tune it up, put the fills in, do everything, and then the weapons were, but they were clean their weapons when they got back, but they wouldn't have to secure them.
Right.
And then we were going to put a watch bill together to people just, it was behind the armory there in Camp Fallujah.
Yeah.
So Knott and Sasser were building a gate to put there, and we had already strung the wire and everything, and they were just building a standard gate, and he asked me about a hinge, and I went over there and I was talking to Knott and I was talking to Sasser and just telling him about an old barn hinge, that just bend it over and straight down in, and it's a U. You put in a bent circle piece of metal, take a tube and metal, just
basically like gravity gate.
Yeah.
And then,
and then boom. Darren Williams looked at me strange, and I heard something slightly, and then I woke up later and then saw that Eric had expired, and Sasser was to my right, and Darren was a little further off to my left, and he was pumping blood 3 feet in the air. So, and I didn't realize I had been hit until I reached down and I was knocked silly, and then felt my leg and went, oh, looked at my hand, it was covered in blood. And tried to get up and couldn't get up, and finally figured out how the hell I was going to get up and got around to the front to the COC, and that's when everybody else started, reacting to the hit, and got, people were already working on Darren by, putting direct pressure. And
Right.
Sasser had a big piece of metal sticking out of his arm, and I hadn't still figured out what was. And I looked down at my boot, and it was all bloody, my right boot. And so I went into the COC, told them what happened, and then of course they've got to strip me of my underwear in
Right.
in the building.
Yeah.
And Barrick Bailey's wife's right there. I'm like, fucking A, man.
You were like, wow, I'm excited to see you.
Yeah.
Is that a mortar in your pants, or are
No.
you excited to see me?
No, it wasn't. So you don't think about anything, but my head was spinning around, and
Fuck.
then the doc came up running in and put bandages on me, and they took me to Bravo Surgical. Put me under 2 times there, and from there to Germany, and then from Germany back to the States. And then recovered, and then they put me at the Center for Seabees. That was my next tour duty.
Right.
And I had to get the fuck out of there, man. That place was killing me. It was boring. I actually surfing the internet, and one day the page come up and says, "You've reached the end of the internet. Stop." So I said, "Well, I might as well call my detailer now."
Yeah, right.
So I called, and he said, "I got 3. I'll take 3.
Yeah.
That was the only battalion I had not been in, and I had still at that point I still had a little over 4 years to do to 30, so I did it. Went to 3, met up with them in Oki. I did the Thailand Cobra Gold, then from there to Afghanistan. I'm like, oh my God, really? And then from there, the battalion's going to Spain. I ain't been deployed to Spain yet.
Yeah.
The battalion's going to Spain. Looked at my skipper and said,
Hell yeah.
"Sir, 30 years, man. Last deployment. I want to go to Spain." Brings me up to his office a couple weeks later, says, "Good news and bad news. Which one you want first?" I said, "You might as well hit me in the face with a hammer and give me the bad news." "Well, can't send you to Spain." I said, "What's the good news?" "You're going to go to Djibouti, Africa." I was like, "Oh."
What's the good news in this? Oh, that extra pay.
And they could have kept that shit
Oh, Jesus.
to go to Djibouti, Africa. But, I finished up my tour, came back, finished up my deployment, came back home, started planning my retirement, got home in March, retired in July.
I had Pete Bonenbacher on here not too long ago talking about
Who?
Bonenbacher. He was Neo.
Oh,
he is
yeah.
Neo. He's still in. He's Neo 1. But I had him on here to fuck Djibouti. It's just like,
Yeah,
it's
fuck
It's a
Djibouti.
common thread. The only person that's ever excited about talking about Djibouti are stand-up comics, because they're not there long enough
No.
to fucking hate it. They're there like, oh, it's a great place, blah blah blah. And then there's some comics that were there like doing USO type tours.
Yeah,
like
I
when they
met one.
first started doing the base, and then now till present day, like
Yeah.
back when there was AM2 matting at sidewalks, in that place, So.
Well, I met that one the other night I texted you about.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he's like, "Hey, they got a great galley there." I said, "Yeah, they were starting to build that when I left."
Yeah, shit, man.
So an old buddy of mine from 40, back in the 80s, come up to me and said, "Hey, you're going to retire. Come back here and go to work." "Fuck you, dude. I'll never come back to Djibouti, Africa."
No, I mean it's very nice money, but it's like I'm done.
Money ain't worth it.
No, it is not. It is not.
Money's not worth everything.
And it's like I get it when some people are in a bind and they need some money and you want to make some quick, fucking do it. I get that.
see,
You went through a horrible divorce. If you're, fine. You got to make money for your family.
Hey, if you're going through a horrible divorce, you only allow yourself to get ass raped.
Oh my God.
You don't get ass raped unless you allow it. I didn't get ass raped in mine.
Or you go to prison. You know what I'm saying? But
It's only 7 years.
jeez.
But it's like, so now, that was my 30 years and still on the grinder. And was all tongue-tied, couldn't say 2 words of shit or shine or anything.
Well, during your retirement?
Yeah, the only thing I just said a couple words. That was it.
Yeah.
Because we'd already been out there. Between the captains that spoke and everybody, the troops had already been out there a little bit, an hour and 10 minutes.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
like,
man.
gotta go. And I had a big old party planned at the Chiefs cabin out at the base anyway.
Yeah. That was fun.
Everybody showed up with Captain Morgan, so that was awesome.
Hell yeah. It was cool, too, because, that year they didn't do Seabee Days, which, for those who don't know what Seabee Days was, it was, basically like a parade. It was like a fair they have on base every year, and they usually set up all the Seabee equipment, which is all your heavy equipment, dozers, graders, excavators, 2 big ass cranes holding up American flag, fuck, you name it, anything to do with construction, it's out there. Plus rides, you had all that, but the rides, you know, which was really cool. They stood it up, and that was really neat, you know.
Well, CB days used to be a pretty big deal, but now they, you know, I don't understand whether the FBI is working in Los Angeles or they're working in Port Hueneme. They're pretty much pulling their 10 hours a day.
Right.
You know, I don't know. It's probably cheaper to live in Hueneme than it is in LA, so the per diem rate's probably not as high.
Right.
But, you know, they keep saying, well, this costs this much money. Well, whether an FBI agent's sitting there or whether he's sitting in Port Hueneme, who gives a shit? You know, you're both government agencies. You're supposed to be working together.
Right.
You know, and then the security, all the overtime and security. I said, you have an auxiliary security force that you can utilize.
That's their whole job. They're like, and it's just like what the regular everyday law enforcement does during holidays.
Yeah,
they have
bring in a reserve
force and
bring them in 3 months early. Start training them on the weekends.
Right.
1 day a weekend, maybe twice a month, and give them training on what you're going to expect them to do during CB days.
Yeah, and that's
you know.
Or another thing too is you can always augment like certain people from battalions. That's what you're doing. You're like attached to these guys. They're not doing any physical security stuff, but they're doing road guard type shit.
Yeah,
that makes life a lot easier because that was a really fun thing because like
you get to show off your skills and what you can do.
You show off a lot of shit. The community sees that we're actually.
Hey, the divers actually use dive gear.
Yeah, they actually do on that.
Yeah. It doesn't sit in the case anymore.
They're inside the tank.
Yeah, they're underwater actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you might beat one in tic-tac-toe.
Yeah, that's easy to do.
Yeah.
But then then you get Muse comes out with their little.
All right. Just so that people know this.
Their little fake warfare pen.
Yeah, Mr. Marty Yingling's flipping up his fake butt pocket. Well, I always thought that was cool. Those Dougie always had his underneath his pocket. I thought it was neat. I was like, man, I want to do this with steelworkers.
They were straight gay, dude.
What's that?
Straight gay.
Well, it's like fucking Liberty cuffs, man. It's like
Liberty cuffs are a little different.
No, I'm saying it to people. They're very proud about it.
They're a little different,
and they want to show them off.
They want to show them off, but there's nothing warfare about Muse. The only thing they fight is how much per diem they can get.
Yeah.
And the first thing when they used to come to Camp Covington in Guam, when we redeployed to Guam after the invasion of Iraq, the Muse guy showed up. I said, "Hey, I got plenty of rooms here. See you later, Master Chief. I got to go."
So they're down in Hotel Row.
Yeah, they're down in Hotel Row.
Who wouldn't want to stay by the Viking? I'm sorry.
I'm just letting you know. I got plenty of rooms here at Camp Covington. Oh, see you later, Master Chief. Bye.
I got to get there with my rental car.
Well, and then each one of them had a rental car. It's like, well, the customer pays for that. Why don't I call your customer and say how much money he can save?
As a rebuttal, though, wouldn't it be like choose your rate, choose your fate? I mean,
well, no,
that
it's
for
not.
going to the school for years and years?
The school's a year long, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But it's just, one of those things. Whenever I traveled, I stayed in the barracks as often as I could.
Yeah.
Try to save the Navy money, man.
What I always thought was funny, though, is like no matter where I went, I would be in Kuwait, and I'd walk out to go smoke a cigarette. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing here, man? I'm just catching a ride. I'm on my way from here to there. And I'm like, holy shit. And you're hanging out in the smoking section.
Well, I was always checking on your ass.
Camp John, Kuwait.
Camp Arif John. There was a place to gain weight.
I fucking totally despised that place because it was just...
You had the Iraqi weight loss program going on up near Baghdad and Diwania, and then you had the Camp Gain Weight down in Kuwait.
Yeah, it was like... They had like one of the nicest galleys ever.
I had gone down there one time during the deployment after the invasion. After the invasion we stayed. I'd gone down there for some reason, and I had gone over there, wherever the hospital was, and I can't remember the name of that base.
Yeah.
It was an big army base. Okay, and I went into a galley that had silverware, plates.
It's funny how like silverware is luxury because I remember. Where they were going to I think it was going to TQ. Like it was like Jimmy Redinger or Dougie Newman. When Dougie Newman, two of my homies, they're my fellow first classes and shit. And then I would just slide into convoys sometimes just to go places to get shit. Like I would like scavenge hinges so I can weld metal things. or just whatever it was, or I'd just be like, yo, dog, here's a request. Can you bring back like 2 forks and a knife, please? Just silly shit like that. Because people will never understand like how good it is to not eat meals out of a fucking bag for like once or twice.
Or sit on a toilet that has
a real fucking toilet
that has diesel fuel smells. And the diesel fumes are burning your ass cheeks as you're sitting there.
So we were in Puerto Rico. This is like this is that year we were in Puerto Rico and went to Honduras.
Yeah.
It's like I broke a bunch of bottles. And I was really fucking shit-faced. And they sounded great at the time, you know, because I was drunk and I was a kid and an idiot. And I broke all these bottles in the pavilion. And then somebody ratted me out. So if I
Where did you go to Honduras?
Yeah. It was like...
Was that which battalion were you in that?
5.
5?
We were in 5. You were in training at the time. Like, this is after the wall deployment.
When we were in Puerto Rico, you went to Honduras?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So it was like the 97, 98 deployment.
Mm.
So then... But yeah, like but Peluso, Senior Peluso, was like,
Vinny,
O'Brien, you're like up here, and he puts his hand way up, like you're up here with me. You took a step down when you decided to break bottles. That's dumb. I don't know. You're down here now. You're gonna be right back up here. But right here, you're right now. But you're gonna get back there. And then I'm thinking, all right, cool. I just got my ass chewed. That's all this is. I get to fucking Honduras, and Mr. Kane. SW1 type. We had 2 each. We had a builder and a still.
Yeah.
Both first classes respectively, and he's like, well, hey, well, we got shit that needs to be burnt. Well, like, looks like you're on a shit list anyway. So you and Velquet, you guys can burn shit. So like, 3-part diesel, 1-part gasoline. I'll never forget the combination or the smell. So we had the fucking had them dig me a nice little trench with the fucking backhoe. And that was it. Yeah. My goodness.
They stirred the pots right there in Iraq.
Oh, we moved them over to the little pit.
Yeah,
right?
but they burned the pots right there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We wouldn't burn in the pit.
No. We took the whole pot into a pit and burned it inside of a pit because
the sergeant major from 1st Tanks in the 1st Marine Division.
Oh, they didn't give a fuck. Huh?
Came over to us and said, "You can burn it another time of the day because it kind of blows over us." I said, "Man, that's when they fill up."
Yeah.
I said, "I gotta burn them when they fill." I said, just because the wind's blowing over your camp, that doesn't really bother me.
Oh, yeah.
Suck it up, Buttercup. So then, that was that deployment when NMCB 5. Oh, God, that was a rough deployment in Puerto Rico.
Man, yeah. We got, in Honduras.
That's when they started banging the dogs in the head with freaking hammers, right?
Some shit like that happened. Yeah, something weird. Like for us, it was like we're in Honduras. You had Marines and Seabees were together, and we weren't allowed to drink for 90 days. So, we finally had a night liberty on the way back, and it was just like assholes and elbows. You got a bunch of guys that really like working with each other, become friends, but become shit talking and gets physical. And finally, mixed some beer into the situation. They got a bar brawl. It was the Marines and the Navy that worked together for 90 days.
Marines and the Seabees. Yeah,
it's fucking starting like scrapping and shit like that. And the next thing you know, well, you have on an Air Force base, Sotocano Air Force Base. So you have Air Force and Army trying to split us up. So it went from me and Velquet like about ready to punch each other in the face to like back to back, like it was fucking video game style. Next thing you know, it's like, we were going to fight, like, just joking, like, not hard hits, but just, you know, enough to be, like, fucking around type shit. So it looked like we were actually in a fight, but not really. And then it turned into, like, the whole bar was just insane brawling. The only thing that got broken out of that is, like, we had one of the Marines broke a wrist, and somebody broke a Humvee mirror. And we just took one of ours off of ours and then gave it to them and, like, hey, man, sorry about that. And they went all the way up to the skipper and all that, and all the...
That was Captain King then.
I believe so, yeah. And all the stuff we were supposed to get was like, no. Our command was cool with it. They're like, hey, you know, whatever. But it was them that they're like, you're not getting awarded whatever joint task force, Bravo, whatever the fuck. I don't know.
Expeditionary Medal or something.
Yeah, some bullshit. It was New Horizons, some shit. It sounded like a fucking rehab center anyway. So figures an alcoholic fight would happen.
Yeah.
So what other kind of that deployment was pretty fucking crazy. I mean, that was a lot of.
Where'd you go after 5?
After 5, I had my shoulder was fucked up So like I had that surgery and I had to go. So I went to the 31st with you, and then you were like one of the people that's like, put him over there. You got me in comms and I was instructing.
And then where'd you go after that?
4. We were in 4 together, you and I. So
When were you? Well, I was the S3 Charlie in 4 then.
I got there before you. Because like I wanted to go immediately back to battalion. So the second I healed up, like I did my 6 months limb do or whatever. The second I healed up, I wanted to go.
So you must have been coming in and going out when I was getting there.
To 4?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you came and visited us. I was in Atsugi. Like, you came out and visited the det and stuff like that.
And then you left for it at Homeport.
Yeah, and then I went to recruiting in Ohio.
Yeah.
There. So I was getting ready to go to State Department. My dad wasn't doing well. So I was like, look, I'm either getting the fuck out of the Navy or, and Reitinger, God bless him, really helped me out. He was trying to get me in the State Department and shit, and then it was just like as soon as my dad went downhill, I'm like, I gotta go.
How could you get in the State Department with the record you had?
Well, the thing was like,
weren't you had 15 like?
I went to so many things that got dismissed because I was a hard worker, and everybody, and I was.
No, I meant prior to coming in the military.
Oh, the military? No, I didn't have shit. I didn't have shit coming in the military, man. I was clean slate. I was smart, but in the military, you know that shit. You actually, thank you because you bailed me out of so many.
Pour alcohol in an instant asshole.
I was an asshole. It was fun times.
Yeah.
It was criminal mischief. It wasn't like asshole.
Yeah, that's when. Okay. So you left 4 and went where?
I went from 4 to NRD, Ohio, and then from Ohio.
You were recruiting?
Yeah.
How did you do there?
I killed it, man. I did great. I had small station of the year. Zone of the year.
Oh my God.
Yeah, man, we did good.
That's right. You can spread the shit,
dude. And the cool thing is,
how many Seabees you put in?
I think about 7, 8, 9, 8. Because I couldn't put more in because there's the restriction. Yeah. Here's something for you. Well, one of them I put in was Lucas Gallagher, and then I called his detailer, got him orders, sent him CB40, which was I was going next. And fast forward to telling his mom he's going to be perfectly fine. He'll be great. And he decides that he wants to be convoy security team. So he takes that gig. And he tells his mom, yeah, we almost got hit by IEDs, blah. And then, like, his family's scared out. And she's talking to my old boss is retired at this time. Mm-hmm. And then he's, like, telling me, like, Josh, you got to tell her to shut the fuck up about this shit. And he didn't say it like that. He was just like, yo, you got to tell Gallagher to quit telling his mom this stuff that's happening to him because she doesn't need this extra worry. Mm-hmm. So then I'm in Guam for 2 weeks. I get a phone call. Bobby Moons is like, hey, Obi, how do you feel about going to Iraq? And I was like, do you give a shit about how I feel? He says, no, I'll see you in 2 weeks. So then I'm in Iraq. And guess what happens? This motherfucker hits an IED, loses 2 toes in the back of his calf. One of my recruits, Lucas Gallagher.
Lose 2 toes in the back of his calf.
Yeah, like because they hit an IED when they're driving over a fucking thing, and it went.
What year was this?
This was 2006.
Wow.
Yeah, him and Cox, two really good guys. Him and Cox got pretty fucked up, and I go to the. It's not the surgical that's on Fallujah. It's not really a surgical. It's like the medical you go to.
It's Bravo Surgical, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. So it's not the main one, but it's the one that they do right quick.
Yeah.
Before they send
it sets you up to go to Balad.
Exactly. So I go and I visit both the guys and clear out my dude's locker, fighting fucking tears, shit like that. So I go and I bring stuff to him, and it's like this 2-star general's just like, oh man, I'm so he's and. God bless him because he's visiting all the people that are hurt and being nice and stuff. And he's like, oh, you're his recruiter? Let's get a picture of this. Let's get a picture of this. So we got Gallagher's like laying in his bed, like his thumbs up, like, and I'm like, he just thumbs up. I'm like, fuck, and I felt like complete dog shit. But the dude, like, after he hit the ID, he asks Doc's like, you okay? And he's like, how's my face? The dude was just worried about getting pussy, like minutes after getting blown up, and that was,
how's my face? You're still butt ugly, motherfucker.
Yeah, right. But yeah, so that was one of my Seabees I put in. But the problem with Seabees at the time was is that like they weren't opening. It was before 11 was stood up, so it was kind of stagnant. And then like right before that, they did that 2x 2x2x2 whatever the fuck it was, where you come in 2 active, 2 reserve.
Well, they were still
8.
giving like 50 grand freaking reenlistment bonuses to Seabee's end.
It was weird. And then but they weren't like adding the numbers much. They were trying to keep retention for the training and people who already have the skill set.
Yeah, because I reenlisted a couple guys in Afghanistan in 08, and they electricians and I can't remember who else, but electrician got 50 grand.
Yeah.
I was like,
well, if you have like a skill set like that, because they're sending you to some really good fucking schools in the Seabees. That's what a lot of people don't understand is you're doing all the civilian equivalent shit because we work exactly with that code now. It's not like it was back in the day. I mean, we have to live within their code, the electronic code, and for ACNR, all that shit.
So then after 40, how did you end up in Chicago?
I mean,
I saw you a lot at a skating rink, hockey games.
Oh no, I was in Virginia Beach.
Oh, Virginia Beach.
So yeah. So like I went to 202. I was a Charlie 3 at Seabee.
Who was there then?
Todd Bernash was
no way.
Yeah, he was my fucking S3.
You talk about somebody that's fucking vertically challenged.
Shit, yeah. Todd, I think he's like maybe an inch shorter than me. But yeah, so
he's over. I think Todd's getting ready to go to battalion right now.
Yeah, I think he's doing one more and then he's retiring.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. But yeah, so Bernash, it was remember Jerome Sims?
Mm-mm.
Like he was in fight with us. He was the
last person I remember being over that unit was Dave Robb and John Lambert.
And Sigler, Mike Sigler was.
Sigler, was he there?
Yeah, he's the one who. Him and Leadham were the two dudes that made sure I got made second. Like after I got in trouble, I got off restriction. Like, have them line up. Fuck
Well, Sigler didn't have any choice, man. He's lucky he never got caught. He's in the same boat as I am. Mikey, man, he was a player.
Yeah.
You know, Austin P fucked me hard one time in Okie, sending that wrong fucking guy to Diego Garcia. We had 2 guys with the same name.
Oh no.
He sent the dirtbag over to Diego Garcia, and Kevin Ormanowski calls the skipper from. I guess this guy gets drunk and he's laying outside and falls asleep in his underwear and shit. And he calls the skipper. I'm like, "Hey, Kevin."
It sounds like he sent the right guy.
No.
He's like, "Get this guy out of here."
He's like, he's like, I told Kevin, I said, "Dude, what would you call right to the CO for, you bloody fucker?" So then I get this email from the skipper back then, and he said, "You no longer have the authority to assign E6 and below." And then Austin was sidebarred on that email, and he's coming down the hill, and I'm going up the hill. I'm like, this motherfucker, I'm going to kick his ass, Austin, right? And he's coming down. I know, I fucked up. I said, why would you send the problem guy, dude?
Yeah.
And so he goes walking down the skipper's office, told the skipper what he did. He goes, Yingling told me which one to send. I told the chief. The chief just picked one, and it was the wrong one. And so, oh man. And then
what was this? Was it in 4?
Yeah.
Because the unit ended up being S3 Charlie after
For the whole tour, yeah.
Yeah, because after he left, that's
Well, yeah, he was still in the battalion when I was S3 Charlie.
Okay, because he went to the Charlie
5, yeah.
And then because he, and then
because what they wanted to do was fleet up Chris Sparks.
Gotcha.
To do the S3 Charlie, but Chris was working on 8 years of sea time. The detailer said no, he's not staying there.
I think he ended up going to the detailer shop after that with and I could be wrong, but
I'm not sure if Chris went there or not. I think so. And then the detailer said no, he's not staying any longer. Can't keep him there. And they had already picked him for the detailer shop.
Yeah.
And he was they made him go to Millington, and everybody, I think Dennis Martinez was still in the battalion then. Fucking, and then, they're accusing me of calling people and pulling strings. I'm like, I didn't call anybody, man. And then Jerry Major comes in to be the command master chief.
Yeah.
That fucking moron.
Major.
And so he's like, well, and I go in and I'm talking to the skipper, and he's like, if you come in and start as S3 Charlie, you do the whole tour. I said, I got no problem with that.
That's awesome.
I said, I got no problem. I'm not the type that wants to just do it one time anyway, come back off deployment and jump on a debt. I said, I got at least 2 deployments with this, and I can learn, make it better for the second deployment. So that's what I did. And then when I went to 3, I was going to 3 as Charlie 5. I already knew that.
That's like Sims dude I was asking is he was in 5 with us, and then when I got to 202, he was a Charlie 3, but they needed chief and safety, and then because that's an E7 billet, and they're like, he knew the shit, my background. He knew I worked for you. He knew like I knew my shit from planning and estimating. Jerome Sims, and then he was a BUC at the time, and he's like, told Bernash and Sigler and a couple other people's like, hey, I want him to be the they'll pick up on the microphone. He told him that hey, I want Josh, me, SW1 to be the fucking Charlie 3. So thank God I got that gig, and it was cool, Charlie 3. And then my homie made Chief, so it's a Chief's billet, right?
Who?
So, fucking Dan. What the hell's Dan's last name? Shit. Oh fucking, I can't even think of it. Big Penguins fan. He's a buddy of mine. Dan. Shit.
If I'd followed hockey, I would.
No. You're at this point. I think you're already retired. But Dan.
No.
He's a Virginia Beach guy because you retired when I was at 202. Anyways, this dude went to 11. God damn it, Dan. I can't think of his last name.
No, okay.
But anyways, long story short, I helped him out, showed him how to do the level 2, and got him up to speed. And I'd still help him out with the math and figure out how to get everything up and running. And then I went to the S7 Charlie spot until we had training show, a chief show up for that billet. And I'm like, I felt like I built all these cars. Now I'm like, now can I play with the radio? That's basically what I was like. After I got all this shit up and running, and then the one NCD needed a first class. Well, actually, they needed a chief, but to help out with current operations. So I went over to current ops as a fucking first class, and I just did the force laydown for the entire NCF.
Who was in the op shop then?
Commander Miranda, and then Jeff Powell, Commander Powell.
Who was your OIC over at 202?
Oh shit, I forget what his name was, man.
Big, tall, skinny guy?
Yeah, he was in a lot.
Barrett?
I think that was it. One guy.
Bartlett? Excuse me.
I think he was in a lot of trouble for shit. No, I don't know. I can't remember who it was anymore. I don't know. The only people I remember really is Mike Sigler was the senior listed advisor.
Uh-huh.
And but yeah, that other dude, there's some issues he had going on, unfortunately.
Huh. That doesn't sound right. I can't remember ever hearing one. I'm getting in trouble.
And then I can tell you off air. After this is over with, I'm not going to air it here. You know what I'm saying? There's certain things we put on the podcast and certain things we don't with regards to OPSEC and people's lives. You know what I'm saying? If you're a fucking idiot, that's one thing. If you're fucking stupid, that's a whole other thing.
Speaking of buttheads, how's that Derek Schmitty doing? I noticed you down there.
Derek Schmitty? Yeah.
Down there fishing a couple times with him. How's he doing?
Oh, great. We found a dead body the other day, by the way.
That's what I heard. I saw that on Facebook. I was
oh, my God, yeah. It was crazy because we're going out. And
were the crabs eating on it yet?
No. He jumped the night before, and he was floating.
What Navy guy was it?
No, I don't think so. I don't know. We don't know what his name is. I'm just calling him Bob until we figure out what his real name is. So, he was there, and then, we're going out, and I just watched Stand By Me not too long ago.
Uh-huh.
So, of course, I said, hey, guys, want to see a dead body? Thinking it was just a bag floating or a dead sea lion. And we get right by him, and it's just like, holy shit. It was really, this is a real fucking dude. It was kind of freaky, And then he called Harbor Patrol, so we had to hang out with Bob until, the Harbor Patrol showed up.
We used to get a lot of floaters in the Chesapeake Bay.
Oh, I bet. I mean, because people just, it's the same shit.
They get all drunk and shit and go out in their boats and wreck.
Yeah. Well, this guy is definitely an intentional jumper because, the night before, they said they were looking for him, but, when you jump, you sink, and then you surface, and then that's what happened to this guy.
Well, it depends on if you hit flat.
Right.
You kind of break up if you hit flat coming off of that bridge.
Oh, I bet.
Because it's like it hit concrete.
Oh, I bet. Jesus. Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel?
Yeah. Well, that one and the Coronado Bridge, that's high
yeah.
enough to do it, too.
Oh, yeah.
So well, actually, the Bay Bridge is the first one, and then you have the Bay Bridge Tunnel. You used to get a couple floaters out of there all the time. And then you had the new bridge where the 695 was completed, the Francis Scott Key Bridge. That was high enough also. But Derek, I see him online every once in a while, bust his nuts,
Yeah.
on Facebook, and he's pretty funny.
Well, it's cool too, because like the fun thing about, and that's what I love about our community, is that that's my first crew leader ever, and I'm still going fishing with the dude. You know what I mean? It's so fucking cool,
And it's like when I saw Eric Bailey and Darren Garen,
Leaf?
yeah, Pam's husband.
Yeah.
They're sitting together in a theater, and I wrote, "There's a Liberty incident waiting to happen."
Yeah, that's funny, man.
I was like,
It's pretty true, probably.
Yeah. When you hashtag yourself shitter mates, come on.
Oh shit.
That's their gig. They went to the Senior Enlist Academy.
Yeah.
They had a connecting shitter, so
Okay, I got 10 minutes. Okay.
they're giving themselves shitter mates. I'm like, come on, man.
Yeah. Dude, is there anything you would like to say to any junior troops or something like that? What's some words of inspiration from Marty Yingling?
Words of inspiration.
Yeah, man. Like, what would you tell a guy checking into battalion right now? Like,
Same thing I told him before.
yeah.
You never get a second chance at a first impression. Never. You always look good in your uniform first thing in the morning, because your day could wreck your uniform no matter what you're doing. Don't look. If you're out in a project, I don't expect you to look spit shined at 1 o'clock in the afternoon or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Always look to go to class. Go to training all the time, or ask your squad leader, "I want to go to class. I want to go to class." You can't go to enough schools. Make sure they're all rate-related schools that you can get, and then military training.
Yeah.
Because you never know when you end up in a desert. And then, if you're not over 21, don't drink. There are plenty of things to do in Southern California not to involve yourself in drinking. And if you're over 21, drink responsibly. And don't buy it for the younger ones, because you'll get caught.
Yeah.
Everybody turns on you once in a while when they're sitting in the hot seat, looking at the old man going 30 and 30 and half a month's pay for 2 and a reduction of rate.
Oh, you got somebody 3 times your size, and you got a fucking blank paper with a lot of lines on it saying, "Write your incident now."
And then they're looking at saving their ass, which is not going to happen.
Right.
It's not going to save their butt, but they think it might if they knock your ass out. So just don't do it.
Yeah, man. There you end up on liberty risk.
But the most important,
so much shit.
The most important thing is, remember where you can, that you're in the military to follow orders. You're there to learn, and you're there to let the American public know that you appreciate their generosity by allowing you to get paid by them.
Yeah.
And that's by presenting yourself in a good positive image and a good uniform appearance when you're out in town. When I was coming up through the Navy, we couldn't wear greens out in the town.
Right.
We couldn't wear camis out in town until, I think a year before I retired, like 2009. Now they're all over the place out in town. And when I see them at a car dealer, I'm like, you're not buying a new car right now, son.
Right.
Move it on out. But, you just remember who you are, who you represent, and the years and all the people that came before you that have set the reputation of the Seabees, who they are, what they do, and what kind of image they set.
Would you go back and tell young Marty Yingling something different? Like, hey, man, any kind of advice you give yourself?
Any kind of advice I give myself? Let's see. Most importantly, I think I'd be a little less stubborn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody told me one time that, I figure out my mission is point A to point B. I don't consider the collateral damage in between the two. I'm like that meteor that hits the earth.
Yeah.
Hits at point A, stops at point B, and there's collateral damage in between.
Right.
I don't consider that to get to point B. So, and it took me a while to learn that.
Yeah.
So, you take that in. If I could go back at myself and look at BUC and Yingling, it's just shit, dude. I even had my shit for E3 turned down once.
Gotcha.
I had a recommendation for third class yanked out from under me.
A lot of people never knew that. I never did.
Yeah,
I
so
known you for fucking 20-something.
I had a chief petty officer that used to like to talk, flip my, back then it was brass belt buckle over. He flipped it over backwards, and I was like, what's this dude touching me for? And he asked me, he goes, what the fuck? You didn't polish the back of your belt buckle. Why not? I said, the same reason I don't polish the inside of my fucking boots, you moron. Why are you touching me?
Yeah, that'll
You know?
hurt you.
And you just don't call a chief a moron in those days.
Right.
Any day, but. And I did.
Definitely not then, because then you can get punched. It's a lot different than.
Well, yeah, he wasn't going to punch me. He was different, but, you know, or you don't look at a young lady who's pregnant and say, who threw the center pole up in the squad tent and didn't put the side poles up?
Oh, gotcha. Yeah,
You know what I
that's
mean?
some Andrew Dice Clay fucking shit in uniform. So.
You don't do stupid shit like that.
Nah.
So I would learn. I would say engage my brain first before I open my mouth.
Oh, makes sense, man. You know, we're gonna gotta wrap it up, unfortunately, man. So like,
Megan's giving us the cut sign.
yeah, it's like, well, I got 5 minutes left, and I'm preventing her from having to do that. 'Cause they
Was
still
that
have-
10 minutes left thing?
That was 10 minutes ago, 5 minutes ago. That was 10 minutes, 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So these guys are awesome. They're fucking. I don't want to bump into their time. So
Oh, the guy coming behind us. These guys
that's
here.
Mike. He's
Yeah.
a good guy. They got a fucking. Everybody that listens to this that is our gamers should check out the Comedy Store's Twitch site. All right, so what Twitch is? All right, check this shit out. It's fucking video games you're playing online, and you can watch other people. It's like a little screen,
Yeah.
like mini screen, and you can watch people playing, and then you got the video game going on in the background, and it's really fucking cool. And I'm
Wow.
glad they do that down here. You know, so
Cut
I'll
it.
tell you off air, Mike Schmidt, that dude standing right there. He and I have a couple cool ideas with veterans and video games, and
Okay.
but I'll tell you in a minute. But my advice obviously would have been, you know, fucking little less beer, a lot more whiskey, and you know, don't fight so much.
Well, and, you know, and actively go after, you know, getting laid.
Yeah, well, that was never a problem. But anyway, so
Yeah,
for
but
all,
the guys don't count, man.
well, hey, you know, especially in this town. All right, so for all those I followed, thanks for making me a better leader. For all those I've led, thanks for making me a better person. Thank you for making me a good fucking leader, dude. All right, let's listen to some punk rock CB shit. We're out.